we get our like top 5 talents, that are innate talents, that just kind of who you are. And my top talent is persuasion. So go figure. I landed in sales and sales management my whole career.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely perfect sense for you. Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast, the podcast that will equip both the seasoned sales professional and the more reluctant seller with mindset shifts and strategies needed to succeed in a competitive marketplace. First of all, I want to say welcome back to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. You all hear me say it often. This is one of my favorite times of the week where I get to hang out with the Sold Out Sales community. Thank you all so much for liking it, for sharing it, for subscribing. I've been seeing so many great things happening in the last few months here. So glad to have you all here. I am so stoked because every now and then, I get to bring to you all somebody that is not only a very dear friend and an amazing colleague, but someone who I've known for years, who I have admired for years, who is a fellow sales superstar who I've seen just kind of rise through the ranks over the course of her career. And this week is that week. I have Miss Rene Santana from El Paso. She'll tell me if she's like originally, but I know I met her in El Paso many, many years ago. Those of y'all who know me know that I am a El Paso native. And I'm going to actually have Rene introduce herself because I want to hear from her. But Rene, when you tell us about yourself, I need you to tell us something that's not on your bio that probably should be, that we're not going to read about on your bio or anywhere on a website or, kind of find it by accident. Tell us about yourself, Rene, and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Tish. You have no idea how excited I am to be here for you and for me at the same time. I always learn from you, and I've been a huge fan all the way back to El Paso, and I can't think of enough times that I'd love to support you. So I'm
Thank
here
you
for
so
you.
much. And right back at you, girl, for sure, for sure. You guys are gonna hear about all her amazingness, so you'll know why I'm fangirling myself here too. So tell us about yourself, Renee.
So I guess I'll start with, I lived with my parents until I was 18 years old, and we moved 20 different times and I went to 10 different schools.
I did not know that.
So that kind of lays the groundwork for my nomadic existence early on, which then obviously, taught me a lot about adaptability and positivity and just, being able to, pivot at a moment's notice. And so I believe that that's where that came from. I'm originally from Chicago. I don't know if you knew that.
Did not.
We moved to Texas when I was in high school, and one of the many moves that I made. I've been in Texas since then, but I bounced back from El Paso to Dallas to El Paso, and now I'm back to Dallas. But I
Gotcha.
lived in El Paso for like 25 years. So
Yeah. I mean, I just remember watching you, we sometimes would travel in the same circles, different networking events, so on and so forth. But at some point I just like saw this amazing, just phenomenal, sales superstar in the news industry is where I found you. I don't know. I think you're back in that industry again now, or in that industry still with Clear Channel, am I right?
Clear Channel, but it's now billboards. I've been there a year now. So
Gotcha, gotcha. So yeah, I just remember watching you just do so many amazing things in the world of news and just really just rocking it. So tell me this, because when I look at you, of course, y'all that are not watching the actual YouTube podcast, you're not seeing this like blonde bombshell, gorgeous, amazing, tall like me, woman that just knocks your socks off and comes across so sure of yourself, so confident. But I know, because people often think the same of me, that most of us have a confidence story. So tell us about, your fake it till you make it moment, or things that kind of helped you build your confidence in the world that you're currently in.
yeah. So again, kind of going back to my beginning roots, every time we moved, it wasn't always a nice, clean, cut. I would literally show up in the middle of different schools in the middle of the school year and have to walk in with all the confidence in the world when I'm, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, those development, stages. So getting to the place where I early on got to a place where I knew that if I stayed in my own lane, that the good things and good people were going to be, attracted to me. And so, I started off in the restaurant business years ago, was in that for 10, 12 years. And because of that, you have little moments of confidence building by just walking up to a table and having to talk to strangers, and get kind of intimate with them for about 45 minutes to an hour and try to earn as much tips as you possibly can. So when I went into the sales side of things, I actually started off as a receptionist at a TV station and went into sales from there. And it just developed within 4 years. I was the sales manager and then the department head, and then I've been kind of doing that ever since. I've 25 years in the making and the building of that, but really just realizing early on that I knew what I thought of myself, and not letting people kind of derail that. You're going to have good days and bad days, and good days and good moments and bad moments, but just having that core in place of I can't be shaken. And that's where I really hang my hat.
Gotcha. What would you say, Renee, is your boldest or most unconventional sales moment where, maybe somebody on your team or in your leadership kind of looked and said, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? What's something that kind of reminds you of, reminds you that, man, I did that? What's something that comes to mind for you?
Well, because I worked at a television station, I was on the advertising side, the marketing, making commercials, selling advertising to folks. I had a lot of really cool things to draw from the news, department and all of that, where I could come up with some really creative ideas. And there's a couple of initiatives that I put together that I'm really proud of. And one of them was called Wait to Text. And it was a campaign geared toward, well, anybody to not text and drive. But we were really focusing this toward high school students. And those little armbands that have the rubber, the rubber
Yeah.
bands that say stay strong or live strong.
Right.
I had some produced that were for your thumb. And it said wait to text on it. And on the backside, whoever our sponsor was at the time, we had an attorney at one point, we had a insurance company at one point, and we tied that into our news. So we had wait to text Tuesdays, and they were orange, your favorite color. And they were in a bowl sitting on the news desk, on Tuesdays. And people were like, where do we get those? How do we get those? And so we started throwing them out at high school Friday night football games. And people really just gravitated toward that, loved it. I would be out and every now and then I'd see somebody wearing a little orange thumb band, and I'd kind of like punch myself in the arm, like, hey, you did that. Happen.
I love that so much. I wish we could do that again because I think that texting while driving is a thing again, and not just for kids, but for adults as well. So I thought that's a really great idea. When you
Yeah, I did a little morph of AT&T has a national campaign called It Can Wait, but
yeah,
it sounded a little bit more like abstinence than to not
yes.
drive. So
That's
we kind of switched ours around and made it seem a little bit more palatable for everyone.
I love that. That's hilarious. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, texting can wait. Not everything else possibly, but yeah, that's a whole nother story. so, so talk to me, Renee, about those oh no moments. Have you had? I can tell you story after story of like times I wish I could go back and have that sales conversation again because it just didn't go quite the way that I wanted it to go, and maybe I lost an opportunity. What's something that you would share had that has been kind of an oh no moment for you that you've had to look back and say, man, I wish I would have done things differently?
So you can see that I'm not a shrinking flower. And
Right.
so I'm very, vocal. I'm very, enthusiastic and passionate, in the way I speak. And, just a little sidebar note, sometimes I have an Amy Schumer sense of humor. And I've learned over the years that not everyone appreciates that. And so I've learned throughout my career to pull that back, to sort of be funny, be humorous, be likable, be relatable, but in different ways. And so I would say that learning to read the room has been one of my biggest lessons throughout my career as a manager. And as a salesperson, because even though I've been a leader for a really long time, I lead sales teams, I coach and train, and I'm teaching them side by side, going out in tandem on sales calls. You still have to offer coaching in the car when after it's complete. And usually I try to start with what you did right, and here's what we could do maybe differently next time. And I turn that internally as well. How did I coach that person correctly? I always want to coach someone to the positive rather than do something or say something that breaks their spirit.
Yeah.
And so I will always want to try to adjust that. So I guess back to just reading the room is really something I've learned over the years.
I love that. Yeah. And sometimes I think when we're coaching people, I found that I kind of expected people to sell the way I do. And so frequently I would be coaching them to my strengths instead of coaching them to their strengths. And that's been a
Yeah.
huge lesson for me. It's like realizing that each person brings something very unique and special to the table and highlighting that instead of trying to make them mini me's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The company I work for now, Clear Channel Outdoor, and this is my first foray into the billboards. It's been a little bit of a transition, but the spirit of of training and coaching and sales teams, and we do the exact same thing, just a different product.
Yeah.
They use a onboarding and hiring tool through a company called the Center for Sales Strategy. I have nothing to do with it. I get no perks for saying that. But
Right.
what I have developed with them is that they have a talent assessment that each hire in the sales department, whether it's manager or sales, they have different questions for those roles. But those it identifies their top talents, and it not only identifies someone that we would want to interview if they meet, let's say, the threshold of what the team composite is, but also coaching them once we've hired them, and coaching to their talents rather than being punitive about what they're doing wrong. And so having that mind shift into coaching to someone's talents, it helps not just help them to develop, but it also helps you to communicate with them in a way that they can hear you, right?
I
I
love
love my top talents so much because they don't ever share the whole thing with you, but our top talent, we get our like top 5 talents, that are innate talents, that just kind of who you are. And my top talent is persuasion.
Yeah.
So go figure. I landed in sales and sales management my whole career.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely perfect sense for you. And I love using assessments to determine, who a person really is so that we can coach them to their strengths. We use something that's local here. It's nationwide, but there just happen to be physically here called Colby. And Colby is also a really great tool for sales managers or just leaders to understand who's on their team. I use it for sales, but it's really great for pretty much any type of team.
Oh
Um,
yeah, and just I've found that just by I've recruited just in the 1 year that I've been at Clear Channel, I've hired 9 people, and in 1 year, and 2 of them were sales assistants, but the rest were sales, and it really helped me identify and really drove home that this thing is really spot on. And so I don't ever put that much weight on some of the things I've used in the past, but this just proves over and over and over again. So there really isn't, I don't ever question it. If I think someone is something, and then I talk to them when I talk to them, but then when I see their talent assessment, I'm like, yeah, but that's really something I need to talk about or think about,
Right. Pay attention to. Interestingly, I'm coaching a team right now, Renee, that they came to me as a unit already, right? I didn't help with the hiring process. And when we did their assessments, it was very interesting because the leader was trying so hard and she brought me in because she's like, they're not selling. We really need to figure out how to help them sell more effectively. But once we did their assessments, it turned out that no one on that team, from an assessment perspective, is a salesperson. They're all really probably more customer service, if anything. And to be honest with you, most of them are more logical, like research, and they want to get to the bottom of things before they'll ask the next question. I said, these are probably not going to perform at the place where you want them to because that's not how they're wired, basically.
Yeah. My current team, and I have 15 right now,
Mhm.
every single one of their top talents is competition.
Wow. Okay. Have you ever gone to a networking event or a conference and found that although you made great connections and you walked away with a stack full of business cards, you still didn't have a real plan for how to get a good return on your investment of both time and money? Well, let me tell you, having a networking and sales planner is a way for you to be more intentional about the way that you network.
Hey, I'm Susan Gladstein. I'm a functional nutrition and metabolism specialist, and I got connected with Tish because she is a rock star at systems and sales, and so I downloaded the planner to help get my brain organized as I went through a rebrand and launched a new course, and it's really helped me sort of get things out of my head and onto paper so that I can actually do follow-ups and not just rely on my brain. So far it's rocking my world and making my business systems that were non-existent actually have some sort of structure. So I love it. It's amazing. And I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed.
I've been working with sales professionals for almost 15 years. And one of the things that I find is that when they don't have a plan, they do nothing. They sit at their desk and wonder what to do. Well, with this networking and sales planner, you have profit producing activities for every single day of the week. It tells you where to go, what to say, even gives you prompts as to how to interact with people that you don't know. If you're an introvert and you feel like this isn't for you, I have already thought of you because I understand exactly how introverts think. So this gives you the tools enabling you to be armed with words, with language, so that you can make your networking more profitable.
Hey everyone, Rachel Neighbors here from solo401k.com. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about how awesome this sales networking planner is that Tish put out. So as you can see, I have it on my Remarkable. That's my sort of e-ink planner. And this sales planner has been so helpful for me. So I'm an old school pay-per-click marketer. I do Google ads, Facebook ads, and I know how to turn advertising into profit. But I didn't know how to turn network sales into profit. And when I met Tish, this woman literally wrote the book on networking called, Networking is Not a One-Night Stand. And she's put that experience and that energy and those valuable tips into this networking sales planner. And I just think that it can be so powerful for you in your business. I know it's been really helpful for me and mine. One thing that Tish told me is, Rachel, when you meet someone, put them into your planner and then follow up with them like they're a lead that you've generated on Google Ads or that you followed up with or that you've generated on Facebook. And that has been so helpful and transformative in my business. So thank you, Tish, for this awesome planner.
Maybe you don't even like networking. You say things like, networking doesn't work. Well, let me tell you, when you have a plan in place, you have some intention, and you have the tools to be able to make it work, you will see a different result. My new networking and sales planner is a game changer. It's the difference between you going to an event, wandering around and walking away without any purpose and without any new money, and walking into an event with a plan, with a purpose, and being able to convert new clients into your business. No one wants to feel inauthentic and pushy or even salesy when following up. So frequently we just don't do it at all. Well, the profitable follow-up formula, which is in the back of your networking and sales planner, will give you the tools and the language and the frequency with which you should be following up so that it feels very authentic. It feels genuine and natural both to you and to the people that you're reaching out to. Go to tishtimes.com/planner to get your digital or physical version of your planner.
Hi, my name is Cheryl James from CL James Consulting, and I just want to tell you a little bit about how awesome this networking sales planner is. I started intentionally networking at the beginning of this year, and I have been using my planner on a regular basis, not only to get inspiration, but to track the people I want to meet and the people I have met, and to make sure that I follow up with them from week to week. So if you are looking to network intentionally and hold yourself accountable, this planner is a must-have.
And once you get your planner, you'll also receive a video series that's going to teach you how to maximize your networking and how to use this planner to get the best result and best return on your investment of both time and money. If you are ready to stop wasting time with networking and turn your networking into a sales machine, then go to tishtimes.com/planner and grab your networking and sales planner. Rene, I want to change gears just a little bit. You mentioned your upbringing, and thank you for sharing that, because again, I didn't know that. And you know that you had to kind of walk into rooms and, own the space and kind of figure things out. What else, if anything, do you think has really played into you being able to show up confident and bounce back from, difficult times and things of that nature? Because I think in sales, people kind of think that you're just you wake up like this, or you're born in sales, or you're born with this amazing confidence that allows you to have these powerful sales conversations. What do you think has really created your confidence for you?
Talking about it in that perspective, there's things that I've done over the years that have allowed me to develop confidence, because even as a sales manager, that's the hardest. I can't teach someone how to be confident. What I can do is set them up for things that they can do that will help build their confidence, little baby steps. I just call them baby steps.
Yeah.
And if you do this thing right, then that builds a level of confidence. And you do this thing and you've done it on your own, building, really pushing to independence is huge. But one of my most important outside of the sales assessment that I look for and I drive home with anybody is resilience. And that's something that you can build personally and professionally. And when things happen, which they're going to happen, I really don't even buy into I had a bad day. Well, the whole day wasn't bad, right?
Right.
I have a gratitude stone that I use every single night before I go to bed. It's a little heart-shaped tiger eye. And it's like, that stone, the brown tiger eye. And I have it sitting next to my bed. No matter what happened that day, I always pick up that stone. I have my little moment, my little private moment, and then I always say, what was the best thing that happened today or that I did today? And then I go to bed with a, really positive outlook rather than maybe NCIS, try not to watch those reality murder shows before you go. But really the idea that, hey, if something does happen, it's inevitable. So you have to buy into in life and in your career that, look, the hardest thing to do when you're a brand new salesperson is to get through the beatdown, which is cold calling. And if you just keep going and not take things personally and just know that you are sort of on a little mission, that you're looking for the nuggets, you're looking for the good guys, that you can actually do business with, that will help build confidence instead of putting so much weight on the ones that aren't ready to do business with you. Or when bad things happen, you dwell on them, or you victimize yourself. Don't go down that road, because it becomes an addiction. It becomes a habit. And so really pouring into resiliency to me, has been my saving grace throughout the years.
What's some advice that you would give to that new person who's just joining the sales team, who's kind of trying to figure it all out, and they're trying their best not to make huge mistakes up front? What's the piece of advice you'd give to that rookie salesperson? Yeah.
Well, you can't break anything. So, so just plow through. I would look at your peers, people that you would like to, look at as mentors, or people that you'd like to emulate, but with a grain of salt. They did it their way, on their own terms, under their life experiences. You're a different person. You bring so much more to the table. I just hired somebody this past year. She's been there less than a year, and she's a recent graduate from SMU, and she had not had a job before. She just hadn't. And so bringing her in, I always remind her and reassure her that You're here for a reason. We hired you for a reason. You did the best thing that you could possibly do, and that is get the job.
Yeah.
Now we had that enough confidence in you to be able to, instill you with, the tools and the training and the coaching, and you're never alone, even though you feel like an island sometimes. But definitely, the persistence is going to be your key. And as you grow through that, you develop, you get better. You have more deeper conversations with business owners. You have, what better questions to ask. You pre-qualify prospects so you're not wasting your time on somebody who's not really in it to do business. You develop confidence so that you can take charge of the sale all the way through instead of the prospect being in charge of that. So you just learn through doing, but again, right back to the very beginning.
Yeah. You just said something that's so powerful because we sometimes give over control of our sales conversations because of our lack of confidence, right? And we find ourselves being taken on a ride instead of actually leading someone through that process. So I'm so glad that you said that. And, I always say the person who's asking not only questions, but the best questions is generally in charge of that conversation. So I love that you said that. And I hope that those of you all who are listening, who are kind of entering the sales world, will really hear that and know that it can be a really big game changer, understanding that part of the process.
The other thing, just to put a pin in everything, what I just said, is at the very end of things, when you've had a good conversation, you've got a good qualified prospect, and you're ready to scurry back to your little office and work on a proposal for them. Remember that this is not anything but the mirror of what you all just talked about. And if you can mirror or match make, your proposal to their marketing needs and present it as your recommendation and not just, here, what do you think about this? No, you go in there with all the confidence in the world and say, based on what we talked about, here are the things that I'm recommending based on my experience and what I know to be true about how it's going to work.
Because I think if we'll just trust that we've heard them, trust that we understand the actual problem and sell to the problem that they're trying to solve instead of to what we think they need. That's the biggest difference. Rene, one of the biggest, I think, game changers that I've given to a lot of my clients is this idea of, if at all possible, because you love to have an in-person conversation. I'd love to be sitting in the same room with you right now, right? But a lot of our conversations are like this. They're video conversations. They're with people that are maybe all across the United States or all over the world. And so we have the opportunity to do face-to-face, but just in different rooms. So I always invite my clients to take notes via our AI, meaning you record it using Zoom and then take notes that way. And use the notes not just for the going back and recreating the proposal, but to understand what needs they're actually communicating to you for future conversations. Because oftentimes our clients and prospective clients are giving us exactly what it is that they need and what clients just like them are probably looking for. But we've married ourselves to our process so much so to where we're selling to what we think they need opposed to what they're saying they need. And if we go back through that transcript, frequently we're able to develop something that's perfect for them if we'll just pay attention, ask the right questions, and then listen to what they've actually said. So
that's right. I mean, if you lack confidence because you're new or because you don't feel like you have the right to be there, which you do. You've been hired by your company. You have the right to be there and have these conversations. If you don't feel like you have that confidence, then even beyond fake it till you make it, sales is just the transference of enthusiasm. And if you can be enthusiastic about your solution and your recommendation, then they're going to have, especially over Zoom, especially when you're not in the room, when you can't really read body language and feel that energy exchange between two people, because it's there, it exists. Yeah. That is the key right there, is being enthusiastic about your
Can I share with you what I learned about the word enthusiasm? It's like when you say your company hired you to be there, you belong in that room. This is going to take it to that whole next level for someone who's listening. So the word enthusiasm, the original Latin word actually is entheos, which means God flowing through. So it means literally, it's like you are ordained to be in that spot to give that person the solution that they need. And if you believe that, you'll show up so differently than if you're kind of like, feeling like, oh my God, please love me, please hear me, please let me sell you my stuff, opposed to I'm here because you need something, I have the solution and I'm here to give it to you. It's a whole different conversation, in all honesty. So I love that word so much. Rene, who do you believe you've had to become to enjoy the level of success that you currently are experiencing, the way that your life is right now? Because I don't believe that we just kind of walk through life as we were, right? We have to become the next version of ourselves to experience that next level. Who have you had to become to be able to sit in the seat that you sit in currently?
So I go back to when I had my daughter.
You're a
She's
twin. I say
28
your
now,
twin
so
daughter.
I came 28 years ago. But as she was growing up, one of the things that we kind of had between us was there's a poem, and it's called Roots and Wings. And it's about the idea that that I am the parent, that I provide her with roots, but I also give her the gift of wings so that when it's time for her to fly, she can, right?
Mhm.
And because of that, I've always it kind of equated that to how I view sales teams as well. I look at somebody, even someone who is maybe more tenured and had more experience in the field. If they're not open to learning and coaching and training, they probably won't get hired anyway,
Yeah.
because anybody who thinks they know everything absolutely knows nothing. And so when you open yourself up to having that mentality where, look, it's my job to give you as many roots and tools and training and coaching and support as much as I can, but I'm going to have to pat you on your little fanny to go out there and have your own wings and do this on your own. It's ultimately growing you to be an independent salesperson. When I was 50 and my daughter was 18, she and I went and got mother-daughter tattoos. And I have a tree of life
Mhm.
that says Roots and Wings, and on the back of her neck she has three little birds that is the wings. So I am the roots and she is the
Thank
wings.
you for sharing that story. And I was saying she's literally your twin, which is kudos to you because you look so young, but you guys look like exactly.
Except for
Oh,
her
she
red
does.
hair. She
Yeah,
does have
very
the
true.
red
But
hair.
that face, oh my goodness. So I know that, first of all, let me just say that, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, it's been a long time ago now, you taught me about retargeting ads. I don't know if you remember that, but you're the first person who ever talked to me about retargeting ads many, many, many years ago. And things have changed so much over the years. Where do you see the future of sales going? And, having been in the industry for a long time, what do you see evolving and changing in sales, and what do we need to be paying attention to?
Well, you talked about AI.
Hmm.
I think AI is a wonderful tool. Like, as an example, in my company, there's only a couple of AI platforms that we're even allowed to use because
Yeah.
we have restrictions on what clear channel information needs to go out onto the internet, right?
Right,
And
right.
so we're very cautious and careful about like recording Zoom meetings or anything
Yeah.
like that. So
Right.
because AI looks and feels like it's in your own private backyard, but it is the World Wide Web. So I would use that tool to its fullest, but with some caution,
Right.
because that
Right.
is something that we really need to keep our arms around, and it could absolutely get away from us if we don't pay attention to it. I can also tell when someone has written a resume with AI and not gone in
Yeah.
and made it personal.
Yeah.
So it can be an exhaustive tool too. It's like, well, am I hiring AI? Am I hiring your chat buddy? Or am I hiring you? So I would caution that. I do see a sort of a downturn in some ways that people are becoming more reliant on electronics rather than that face to face. And I
Yeah.
don't mean going door to door, but
Right.
having those appointments that you require the client to do business with you as a
Right.
person and not just through Zoom. It that happened during COVID, and it is sort of going back the other way a little bit, but
Mhm.
I can tell when a salesperson is getting ghosted, is maybe they sent out a proposal and they're not getting any responses. I can tell they did it electronically and
Yeah.
not that they went to a person's proximity in their office, checked out their business. I mean, how many businesses are we trying to sell that we don't even know what it looks like on the inside?
Very true. Very, very true.
So definitely caution that, but there's more and more enterprising and new business development positions available out there than any other place, because that's what any company, I don't care what industry you're in, their number one priority is revenue and new business development. So if you can be very strong in that, you can translate that to any, industry. You don't have to
Very
stay
true.
where you're at. My dad told me one time that I could sell barbecue to a woman wearing white gloves.
I love it.
And that tells me that I could sell advertising, I can sell insurance, I can sell, technology, I can go in and sell anything I want, because the concept is still the same, of you doing the same process of finding a good qualified prospect, asking them the right questions in person,
In person.
and,
Yeah.
developing a solution based on their marketing or their revenue goals.
Very true. I agree. People ask me that often if I'm very industry specific, and I'm like, I don't have to be. I really don't. So, Rene, we are out of time. I hate that we're out of time. I really am enjoying our conversation. We'll have to talk again in the very, very near future. But thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Will you please tell us what's the best way for our audience to connect with you, whether they're needing billboards, they just want to, have a conversation with you. What's the best way for people to reach you?
I would probably say LinkedIn.
Okay,
That's
perfect.
my big business platform that I use. It'll tell you a little bit about me. And it will, you can reach out to me there, and I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction or answer any questions. I mean, I'm at that level in my career now where I am a mentor. And so I want to, give back, and I'll help anybody.
I believe that. Thank you, Renee, so much. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for being a part.
Thank you,
I love
Tish.
you right back,
I
girl.
love you.
So thank you all so much for being here with us today. Reach out to Renee. She has a wealth of knowledge and information. She's so generous. And we'll see you back here next week on the Sold Out Sales Podcast. Thanks for listening to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. I would be so appreciative if you would show me and my amazing guests some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, go over to tishtimes.com/resource page and make sure you pick up your sales and networking handbook, especially for introverts. Also, I'd love to continue this conversation, so make sure you connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll see you back here next week. Yeah. It's great to know that and to be able to tap into what they really, how they're wired and how they really think.